Hello and welcome to that time of the week where I talk all about what Tinto Talks has been talking about. And today, of course, as you can see on your screen, we're going to be starting off with the Saturday building. This is the stockade, a defensible building that does not offer any zone of control. For 250 peasants, you will get 100 garrison size, which seems like a very, very small amount, and in EU4 it's basically nothing. Though this is not EU4, this is EU5, where you will not be able to just click a button to create a breach. So maybe this will hold out just that little bit longer than it would in EU4. I can see this being used in choke points, in mountain passes, for example. I could see this being used as supplementary to your main fortifications, or maybe just dotted around just as a way to slow your enemy down while you gather your own forces. Maybe it could be a fort line that you place on the border with an ally, because let's be honest, you can't always trust that they're going to remain your ally long term. But you don't want to build fortifications there and give the game away immediately. That's just a couple of ideas I've had. But let me know what you guys think. What would you build the stockade for? Where would you place this this building? But anyway, moving on from the stockade, we will be going on to the main meat of today's video, which is, of course, talking about those tags that don't own any land. And there was a little bit of confusion about what specifically constitutes the various different landless countries. If we go onto the Tinto maps from last Friday, yesterday, for example, the Societies of Pops, which is the non-land owning tags that we will not be able to play, a lot of people were confused as to why there were so few in the Horn of Africa, why all of this territory is basically empty. And well, we got an answer. We got a little bit of an instruction manual as to what Paradox Tinto are thinking when it comes to placing the various tags. So, settled countries, state societies. These are organized through states, which implies public power holding a monopoly of violence, tax collection, public works, and writing and record-keeping systems. The Societies of Pops, or stateless societies, these are the tags we won't be able to play. These are societies lacking a state properly, but have some complex organizational features, such as, and not necessarily all but some, chiefdom authority, permanent settlements, agricultural development, and some kind of taxation. And then we come to the land where there are people, where there are lots of populations, but no tags. These are simple societies, usually hunter-gatherers or shifting agriculturalists. They don't organize around power structures, but through horizontal ones. Their pops won't be part of any type of tag. They are akin to EU4 natives. So, originally, when we first saw the colonization system, when we first saw the West Africa map, there was a little bit of an outcry about, you know, there are people here, and the map is not showing any of the people here. They should be shown somewhat similar to Victoria 3, was a big suggestion that was repeated quite a lot. Then when the Dev Diary on Wednesday came out, talking about all of the different stateless societies, people thought, oh, well, this is fine then. They are going to be there. They are going to be these non-landowning countries, these societies of pops. They just won't be playable, which is fine in a way, right? But now we are learning that while we do have the societies of pops, and they are there are also a lot of empty areas with EU4-style natives, which I think has disappointed some people. I am of the opinion that what is absolutely necessary to represent them is already there, right? The pops are there, the pop types are there, the culture and the religion is there. I think that is the bare minimum, and that has been reached quite substantially. I don't think they need to be grouped into essentially tags that we can't play with anyway. the interaction with them is not going to be really anything substantial. While I appreciate that this is in, I feel personally that it wasn't entirely necessary. It's just a nice addition. Because, yeah, we won't be able to play as these. They, I imagine, will get the chance to become proper state actors. We saw, with the Kven in Finland, Sweden region, that they were able to become fully settled countries. I don't know. I am not sharing the massively negative opinion that I've seen quite a lot, and maybe that is my inbuilt Eurocentrism speaking. I don't know. But I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and wait and see on this one. But I am curious to get other people's opinion on this, so leave your comments in the comment section below, and I will give them a read and see if my opinion changes as well, because it has done in the past, so we'll see. But moving on as well, Pavia here saying that can pops of a culture become a society of pops during the game or by an event or any other means? Not currently. Whether they're talking about these guys here, these are pops here, they are pops of a culture, can they become these stateless societies? Not currently, though it might, it kind of implies that maybe that's something that they might be planning on working on, potentially. That would be nice if these pops could, over time, spring into being the Society of Pops, and then, these guys will eventually, potentially, form settled societies that, will be tags on the map. Maybe. We'll see. Not currently leaves it open for expansion in the future, potentially. How will it function for modding? This is going on to the main Tinto talks now. And asking how it will go for modding for the, various non-landowning countries. I need, a shorter term for this. But anyway, the different types of non-landowning countries, they are not going to be moddable. It is in the deepest part of the code. It is hard-coded, so while Anbanal will be able to utilize the banking countries, the building-based countries, the army-based countries, the societies of pops, it won't be able to add new ones. Whether it can rename the existing ones, maybe that's totally possible. Maybe it's not really necessary, but they're going to be able to be utilized, but not added new ones, it seems. Society of Pops should really be named to Stateless Society. I've seen both of these. If we go back to here, state societies, stateless societies, it seems like this was listened to. But here, I also believe they should be visible on the map, similar to Victoria 3 decentralized countries. This is a sentiment that I've seen a lot. Just the border with a name without the internal color. However, they overlap with each other and themselves. I don't know how you overlap with yourself, but it's not easy when they overlap with each other. And you could potentially have dozens of these decentralized countries, these stateless societies, in the same place. Now, imagine that Victoria 3 map of Africa with all of the different decentralized countries overlapping on top of one another. Would get kind of busy. It would look a little bit like a mess. And I kind of agree with Johan here. That is not an easy thing to show. That's kind of I do feel like this is a good point. Can you simply destroy the buildings of an extraterritorial country in your domain, or do you need to wage war like in CK2 to destroy trade posts? In most cases, it does take war. to destroy the extraterritorial countries. I think these are the building-based countries and the building-based and the not the army-based. Maybe the army-based actually falls under this category. I'm not sure. Building-based and banking-based. But yeah, no, that's cool. Needing to declare war to get rid of them if we so desire, though I don't know why we would desire that. Hope there's some kind of formable navy-based country. At least if there's nothing at the start of the game that would fit that category. Would a pirate nation fit that description? Johan's saying here, yes, it's a player fantasy, so if we do it, it will be for that. They currently don't have naval-based landless countries, and it is hard-coded, you know. A modder would not be able to add this themselves, but there are multiple comments that I've seen where Johan is saying that they will probably be adding a naval-based landless country for when the Age of Piracy starts, which I think would be pretty cool. Why can't I turn my bankster's family into a settled country? Well, it's not easy, and most likely a really bad decision to try go from a few hundred bankers to taking over an entire location. Yeah, giving bankers any amount of power, I mean, we saw how that went in 2008, right? Like, we know that this isn't a good idea, but hey, doing things that aren't a good idea is something that we do in Paradox games all the time, so I guess that's fine. After which they'll take control of all locations where they have pops and are the dominant culture and religion. What happens to the pops that are owned by the societies of peoples that are minorities in their locations? They automatically migrate to nearby locations that will be settled. So this is when you colonize, there will be obviously pops left over. Do they migrate? But no, they don't. They stay around as part of their society. These stateless societies can still coexist in the same location as your own colonies, which I think is pretty cool, and maybe you will be able to convert them into being a part of your colonies over time. That would be kind of cool. Would the Teutonic Order be a building-based country that owns land, or is it considered different from the other holy orders? The Teutons own land. However, Calatrava is a building-based holy order, which is cool indeed. You mentioned the peace tables. Will we talk about how peace mechanics and war work soon? I really hope the game doesn't go the way that Victoria 3 went, where you can only make demands at the start of the war for some reason. I agree. I think that's kind of terrible, since that neither feels good nor feels historical. So, peace deals will be similar to EU4 Imperator and Victoria 2. I want there to be a little bit more. I do think Victoria 3 had one good idea when it came to peace, and that is that both sides could gain something. You know, we could have I gain this land and you gain this land, and then, you know, both sides of a conflict will achieve something. I think that would be really cool. I think that would be a very good thing to add to the EU peace deal format. I really hope that that is something that they manage to figure out and add to the game. That would be pretty awesome. Moving on, though. It's a very interesting iteration of the country system. Can army-based countries also become settled like the Society of Pops? Also, is there a possibility for countries too small to be one location minus, like Monaco and San Marino, to instead be represented by extraterritorial countries? Army-based countries that are steppe nomads have a way to become location-based monarchies. But he said nothing about the tiny, tiny countries. It's a good idea, though. And that's why I mention it, because I think it would be very cool to have a building-based country for Monaco and San Marino. I think that would be really cool. Maybe they'll be able to expand and do something more over time, but yeah, they are too small to be on the map, because you need to have 100 pixels, and neither of these come anywhere close to 100 pixels in size on the map. But having them be building-based, you know, a building of, you know, a unique Monaco building or a unique San Marino building, I think that would be kind of cool. It'd be nice to have an option to see pop societies on the map instead of empty land to be colonized. So this is going back to what we saw earlier, where, you know, It wouldn't look good to have the Victoria 3 system. But Johan's clarifying here as well, they've not yet come up with a way for that to look great. So maybe there is attempts at, adding that kind of functionality. That would be cool. That would be cool if we had the ability to see them in some way. We just don't know how that would look just yet. Again, this is basically talking about all the pops that live in this, blank region here. If we get the ability to see them in some way, that would be kind of nice. We could do the occupation lines, the same as you do already. Occupation lines for where these countries are? No. How do you differ it from actual occupations? And how do you show 3 different ones at the same place? It just wouldn't work. So, unfortunately, bad idea. Can we get some buffs if the bank's main office is in our country and we have a banking family members in the cabinet? So Florence and Genoa at the start. But yes, there are indeed some benefits already. That would be pretty cool. Can an extraterritorial country own locations? No, they can never own locations directly. If they own locations, they are no longer an extraterritorial country. They are a territorial country. And also, I really like this guy's comment down here. Will he be a country designer? I kind of hope so. That would be cool. I like making my own country. But anyway, comment here. So building-based countries have no way to become settled? What about the Japanese daimyos? That's a really good question. Seems like to be a good example of a building-based country that should be able to settle, or at least take over whoever controls the settled nation of Japan. And then here, how and why do you make the distinction between army-based countries and societies of pops? Building-based countries are definitely distinct, but the distinction between army-based countries and societies as both being relatively disorganized nomadic nations seems more arbitrary. Johan having a bit of a funny clapback here, basically saying that the states that created the biggest empires on Earth, the Mongols, as being so similar to minor tribes with a few thousand people who are close to the Stone Age technology. It's a little bit of a wild take, certainly. So, yeah, they're just a little bit different. Amazing Dev Diary. Super excited about how innovative it all is. I agree. On a different note, the Holy Order map in Iberia is quite inaccurate. So Pavi's saying here that they need to do a proper pass on them as they were implemented as placeholder work in progress feature. And there's some errors to be corrected indeed, like having the seat of the Order of Santiago not in Ucles, I don't know, as it should be. But we decided to wait until getting more functionalities until doing this pass, which will most likely be in the autumn. A prediction, Timur will be an army-based country that spawns sometime after 1370. Nope, you just need to start as Chagatai to get, the ability to play as Timur, because I believe he was born in 1337. So I hope there is a lot of content around him. I think that's going to be a very interesting playthrough if that's what you kind of want to do. Forming the Timurids would be kind of cool. What's the gameplay loop like for bankers? Accumulate ducats, managing loans, and Diplo? Being able to take another country's estate loans and make them a loan against you, and then have the, being able to put up the interest after that, sounds very funny. I think that's very, very cool indeed. I can imagine this being huge in multiplayer, honestly. That's part of the gameplay loop, at least, is what I can see. Is there some vanity project we can spend it on, like palaces and CK2 Republics? I do kind of like... I like that idea. CK2 Republics are really fun, and I'm really sad that they're not in CK3 yet. But anyway, the answer is green number go up. So basically, what we're doing here is we're appealing to the Victoria 3 market. The Victoria 3 player demographic is all people who want to see, line go up, because there's nothing else to do in that game. So if you like line go up in Vicky 3, then come and play a banker in EU5. It's going to be a better game. It's obviously going to be a better game. So you got something to play there. It's great. You are catered for. You are catered for. But anyway, moving on. Will trading companies like the VOC, I had to look up what VOC stood for. I know it was the Dutch trading company, but I didn't know the actual words. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the word for the V. It's like, no, I'm not even going to try it. But then the O is Oost Indies, and then company is company. But anyway, but the VOC will be a building-based country. So trading companies will be building-based, which I think is kind of cool. How about extraterritorial countries, societies of pops, and control mechanics? Control is nothing that societies of pops care about. So they just, yeah, it's not a relevant thing. I imagine there could be some fun gameplay around that, but at the same time, the reason that these societies of pops are not playable is because they are ignoring so many parts of the proper gameplay loop that Paradox is going for with EU5. That it's basically like stripping out the majority of the game. I understand completely why they're not playable in that case. Maybe this was addressed at some point about vassals, but since they're all countries, could you vassalize banks and holy orders? Yes. Yes, you can. Is it possible to flip a country from one type to the other via an effect, both to owning land and away from owning land via effect? That is, if I choose to, could I make it so that the Pope were to have lost their last of their territories and be conquered, they would flip to an extraterritorial country and still stick around? Yeah, that is in fact doable. I think even going further than this, I think if you imagine for a moment, in EU4, you have just finished fighting your biggest rival and you have full annexed them. But their army was still roaming around. In EU4, that army turns into rebels. What if in EU5 that army doesn't turn into rebels? What if that army just turns into an army-based country that is still at war with you? You've peaced out and you've taken the land, but you're still at war because your enemy still has an army. I think that would be really cool. I think that would be super cool. I think a lot of the rebels in EU5 could probably be represented by these non-landowning countries, especially separatists. I think if that is the way that they're going when it comes to rebellion mechanics, I would be very, very pleased. I think that'd be very cool. Are building-based holy orders playable? Yes, they are. What is preventing other nations where you just decide, okay, I don't want you anymore, die? Are your tools limited to, but look at what I can give you, or hurt them somehow? Basically, I'm playing a banking country. If another country wants me dead, how am I going to be able to prevent that? Can I hurt the enemy somehow? Well, yes, you can still raise armies. You can use mercenaries. A bit the same for the countries such as the Hansa. How are they able to keep their subjects should they decide it's time to become independent? Yeah, gold for mercenaries is damn useful. Having more than one branch is good to not be relying on a single country. So your building-based country doesn't have to be a single building in a single country. You can have buildings in multiple countries and, you know, have multiple branches. Cool. Do army-based countries need to own locations? No, they can't, because if they owned locations, they would be a location-based country now. They exist so long as they have an army, and that army can migrate and shit. They just need the army to survive, but they don't have any land, and they have no manpower or tax. So it looks like these army-based countries will exist until they are killed or settle. I don't know how they're going to grow their army. Maybe there'll be some way to conscript people that they have, you know, they siege a location. They can maybe conscript some of the people there into their army. Something like that. I don't know. Because they do kind of feel like rebels that don't reinforce. It's another reason why I think the army-based countries definitely sound a lot like rebels to me. A mandatory question, but will Prussia be an army-based country? I feel like this is a meme, obviously, like he's joking, but then he adds, given their history, it'd make sense. Brother, no, it wouldn't. Prussia owned land. You know, saying that they were an army with a state rather than a state with an army is just a tongue-in-cheek way of saying that the army was very important to the state of Prussia. It's not some declaration on the you know, how their state was formed. It was, the army was subservient to the state, just like in every other country. It was just their army was a lot more powerful relative to the size of their state than any of the other great powers. It's wild that this... I feel like you had to have been joking here, but then what is this? It would make sense, my ass. But no, they're just a normal country, as they should be, because this makes sense. Not this. This is delusional. But anyway, the last topic thingamabob that I want to bring up is this one here. This is a different thread going into the problem with player feedback, and generally it was just basically saying we don't know enough to give proper feedback, and also here's my feedback on a thing. But anyway, Lord Canterbury here has a point, saying that after 200 years of playing EU4, I've already well and truly won and ready to start a new game. Project Caesar's start date is so early, it means that in a European game, by the time I get to a point where colonization is possible, I'll already have conquered so much of Europe that the challenges disappear from the game. But I think that not having a late 1400 start is the only really terrible decision Tinto have made so far. I hate this. I hate this so much. I've seen so much cope about the start date and not having multiple start dates, and it keeps getting brought up, and it's honestly like... Yeah, let's just go into Johan's comment here. I usually conquer all of Europe in 2 to 3 years in Hearts of Iron 4, but it has no relevance to Project Caesar either. How things work in EU4, where conquest is trivial, and the only limit on conquest is your mana, has no relevance in Project Caesar. Caesar. Whatever. Yeah. The fact that we have the ability to rapidly conquer in EU4, the mechanics of EU4, all of that, is not relevant. This may well be EU5. It's almost certainly EU5. It is a sequel to EU4, but that doesn't mean it's going to play the same. That doesn't mean it's going to have the same gameplay loop. That doesn't mean it's going to be as easy to expand. We already know the control mechanic is going to put a huge, huge roadblock in the way of just overwhelming expansion. And I'm sure someone will manage to get a world conquest at some point. Right? At the moment, of all of Paradox's somewhat modern games, let's say all games Paradox have made since 2010, the hardest one to do a world conquest in is Greece. No, is Greece. Sorry, is Victoria 2. And that they managed to do a world conquest in Victoria 2 as Greece. It took them quite a while. The easiest one to do a world conquest in is Victoria 3, which is wild, but that's true. And EU4 sits somewhere in the middle, right? Crusader Kings is around about the same level as it. Hearts of Iron is a little bit easier than it. Imperator is around about the same level, maybe a little bit easier. EU4 is somewhere in the middle, and it's still a little bit too easy. I imagine that EU5 is going to be closer to the Victoria 2 level of ease of world conquest than the Victoria 3 level. And I don't know, if anyone wants to know why, I believe that Vic 3 is the easiest to conquer the world in, I basically almost did it as France. You can find VODs somewhere or other. But yeah, it's using EU4 as an example of, oh, this was easy in EU4, therefore it's going to be easy in EU5, therefore game bad, which is basically what's here, right? It was easy to win the game in 200 years in EU4, and that's when I would want to restart and start a new game. Therefore, game starting 100 years earlier is a terrible decision makes colonization mechanics unplayable. It's delusional, right? It doesn't have any bearing on reality. So, that's it. That's all I got time for. That's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like these videos and you want to help me out, please hit the subscribe button, because it I get a sub, makes me get dopamine. You get to stay updated with everything coming out of Paradox Tinto. You stay informed about Project Caesar. It's a win-win. Everyone's happy. Throw your comments down in the comment section below, and maybe like the video as well. That'd be cool. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.